Hello, everybody, and welcome Stephanie Sams to the Brass Tax Business Podcast. Thank you so much for being on today, Steph. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
For all of
You
our
sound like a
listeners,
Chick-fil-A worker.
I
Sorry.
sound, I sound like who?
A Chick-fil-A worker.
My pleasure.
So I said, my pleasure.
So today, I'm really excited to have Stephanie Sams on our podcast. She is a talented event coordinator and marketing professional and an entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. She owns Foxline Socials. She also coordinates events at top Leesburg venues like Sidebar, Schmidt's Barbecue, Halftime Restaurant Sports, and she creates unforgettable experiences for her clients. With a background in social media marketing at companies like Conveyance Marketing Group and Evergreen Companies, Stephanie blends design, marketing, and event coordination seamlessly. So I'm really, really excited to talk to you today, Stephanie, because I love talking to people in different industries about marketing, about sales, because I've talked obviously to too many people in the chiropractic industry. So I love talking to people in the restaurant industry or events industry on how you guys market. Before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your background, kind of where you came from and how you got into the marketing industry, and where you are today.
Sure. So I moved here to Leesburg, Virginia, probably about 26 years ago now. We moved here for my husband's work, and I was a stay-at-home mom for a very long time. And I would do silent auctions and market that and put it all together and reach out and get donations. And then a good friend of mine, Sarah Ricketts, who owns The Perfect Blind, her husband owns Evergreen Homes, which is the Evergreen companies. And one day he said, "Hey, I really need a social media person. I think you'd be great. Why don't you come work for me?" So that's actually how I got into social media. And as anybody who uses social media knows, it's changing constantly all the time, which was like the worst thing ever because I'm 48, and so it's like you have to keep relearning the wheel every time they change something, and it gets really frustrating. And you're just like, I don't know, I just would get frustrated with it because it's constantly changing and it never stays the same. And nobody tells you that they changed something. Just all of a sudden, it doesn't work the way it did. So that's how that got started. And that was and then I left there and I got a job with Conveyance Marketing Group. It was a little bit closer to home so I could be around when the kids would get home. And that worked out great for a while. Doing that led me to what I'm doing now. So I guess what I'm saying is things just fall in my lap and I just say yes and go along the path of whatever comes next.
Well, that's a great lesson for our viewers to learn because if you just say yes, it sounds like when you took on that social media manager role, how did that make you feel? Or were obviously you didn't have a huge background in managing social media. How did you tackle, a daunting task like that with something you've never done before?
Honestly, I'm trying to think like back how far along that was. There wasn't even really a whole lot of Googling that you could do at the time. So it was really just hit or miss and trying to figure things out. Luckily, at that time, they weren't trying to have me like pushing ads and different things like that wasn't really a major thing. Like you were just trying to get people to follow you and put your product out and show what you were about, and that kind of thing. And so thank goodness for that because later on down the road, you had to get into all the ad sales and setting those up. And wow, those can be a lot. So, they just start getting overwhelming sometimes. But, you just have to give things a try and see what works, see what doesn't. And hopefully you work for somebody who's awesome and is just like, well, we tried that, it didn't work, on to the next. So just having that attitude of like giving something a shot, not needing to be perfect at things before you try them, just go for it.
That is the biggest thing that I struggle with is it has to be perfect, but what is it? 90% done is better than 100% perfect. I don't know if I don't know where I heard that along the way, but that always stuck in my head because I was like, oh, it always needs to be 100% perfect. But 90% and being done is better than trying to be 100% perfect and not getting it done. So, along the way, I don't know who told me that or taught me that, but that was definitely one of the things I listened to. So, with, social media managing and the different companies, that led you to where you are now, what do you feel like you learned along the way? What was, obviously, was it a lot of trial and error? Was it just trying new things and seeing if it worked? Or did you just, how did you learn how to do what you were doing for, the different companies that you worked for?
I think some of it is, as technology comes along, then so does more information out in the world. And so then Google came along, and then you could like ask questions and search things, and people can, teach you how to do. And then, working with Conveyance, there was other people there that also knew the marketing realm, which taught me a lot of things that I wouldn't have known beforehand. So it's just being open to learn. And I think part of it, and it's like just I don't know all the answers, and so just being open and saying I'm not sure, can you help me, or asking will lead you down so many different roads than if you just sat there in your corner and tried to figure it out yourself.
Got it. And tell us about some of the event, coordinating that you're doing now. Do you still do a lot of the marketing, social media stuff, or you mainly just focus on events? And
I don't. So I met Niels through my marketing job. We were at a period of time, probably about 6 years ago, when they were opening Captain Catoctin's Crabs and Concoctions, if you remember where that is. It was a mouthful. And he had a partner, him and his partner were starting this new restaurant. And our marketing group had way too many jobs going on, and they didn't have somebody to be in charge of that account. So the social media person got put in charge of that account. And that is how our friendship bloomed. And so when I left Conveyance, we stayed friends, of course, because he's the best. And so he's like, hey, what are you up to? And I'm like, nothing. Like, I'm just figuring out what I want to do next. I don't know what I want to do next. And he's like, well, what about being an event coordinator? Do you know anybody that would be interested in that? And being naturally blonde, I'm like, let me ask around. I'll get back to you. And so I didn't think of myself immediately because I'm like, I have zero experience in that. Like, I wouldn't know what I'm doing. But he saw that in me, and he's like, you were my, coordinator for this whole thing. Like, I think you can do this. And so, I went into it with, if I stink at this, you have to tell me. And if I hate it, I will tell you. Like, I don't want to ruin our friendship, but like, I'm willing to give you a try, and I would love to work with you. So that'd be great. So that's really kind of how it started. And then when I first took over, it was very overwhelming because I think the person that they had working for them beforehand didn't really know what they were doing either. And so I walked into like organizational of the events on Excel spreadsheet, and I'm like super creative minded and visual, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like how do you keep anything straight? You have to scroll all the way over, and like I just need it here, right? I don't need it across multiple sheets. It was a lot. So luckily I just said, hey, I'm not going to be able to function this way. Is there any way that we can switch over to doing it with this and this and this? And I changed everything.
Wow.
So my mind could understand it. And hopefully it crossed over everybody. In the event, any event job you have, like I can't even imagine doing wedding coordination. Those people are a special breed. They really are, because they have so many things going on. Whereas I just have to organize my restaurant and my staff, my bar staff, and the kitchen, and that's it. Like, I don't have flowers and music, and like, it's a lot. So, having it to where it's streamlined just made more sense to me. And I feel like everybody appreciates it because the communication is just across the board, is always the same. They know where to look for different things. So it works out really well. And I think that it's been successful.
That's great. Absolutely. With the events that do you mainly just do them at one venue, or do you have multiple venues that you have options for your clients?
Sure. Sorry, my dogs just got home. So we have multiple venues with the same restaurant group. So we have Sidebar, and with Sidebar, if you've never been, we have really great indoor outdoor space, and then we have multiple cocktail bars. So you can do an indoor outdoor party for a group of, I would say, a max of 200, and then upstairs in the night shift cocktail area, you could do a group of 50. And upstairs, it's very cool and sleek. It's kind of like a jazzy speakeasy vibe, I guess.
Hmm.
And then the docket, I always call it the Copacabana kind of, it's a little bit more chill and relaxed because you have indoor outdoor. But all the food is the same. And then we have like really great bartenders that their specialty in life is you say, hey, I really love the spirit and I don't like smoky, but I don't want it too sweet. And you give them all the parameters and they make you a really good drink. So that's always a fun aspect to having a party there because you have a little bit of that option to where you could say, let's make this really custom and add our drinks into it. And it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And then with the clients that you have events for, obviously there's weddings, there's birthday parties, there's things like that. What are, kind of their biggest needs? What types of things are they looking for, if they are throwing a birthday party, or obviously, if it's a wedding or a reception or something like that? What are the biggest questions your clients ask?
I think that the major things that you'll find differences in booking event space is some spaces you pay.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
Stop it. It's gonna have
That's fine, Steph. Don't worry about it. It happens.
Yeah, I
So
have the window open for good light, and then they see the neighbors walking their dogs, and it's a show.
there we go.
Okay, what were you talking about?
Just yeah, kind of what are clients looking for in the Leesburg area when they come to you, wanting to do an event at one of your venues? What are some of the things they're looking for?
So I think the number one thing is you have some event spaces where you have to pay to rent the space. And then some of them also have a food and beverage minimum, where that means you have to spend so much money on your food and beverage. And otherwise, they charge you that additional fee. With Sidebar, we do it a little bit differently. We have the rental fee. And then, say you just wanted to have a cocktail party, you could rent the space and then you would come and we have a complimentary tasting for every event. You would pick out your drinks that you want to serve at your party, and then you would have your cocktail party. And if you don't want to serve food, you don't have to. If you want to do a cash bar, do a cash bar. If you want to do a limited bar, you can do a limited bar where you say, hey, I'm going to cut people off. I want to buy the first round. I'll spend, $500. And then after that, it's a cash bar. And so that kind of gives you the flexibility to fit within your budget what you want. The only time we ever do a minimum is for after parties. That's something we started this year. And so with that, you have a $300 deposit fee. And then whatever the room rental fee would be, that's now your food and beverage minimum for your after party.
It's okay. So, what do you feel like separates you guys from maybe other venues in the area? Just the ability to customize the venue based on the client's
I
needs?
think the customization of it, and then we have some really unique and fun spaces. And then also, I don't think there's anywhere else where you can go and have a complimentary cocktail tasting and say, hone in what you really want, especially for a wedding, doing like a his and her drink. And, or sometimes in some cases, they do 4 drinks. So it just depends on the party. But you can come and sit down and kind of customize it. And then we also allow you to create the name and we print out a custom menu that night for your event. So not a lot of places do that without a huge upcharge, I guess. But that's our whole key is Sidebar really is a cocktail bar and we want to make that like the shining star of your event. Also, our food is fabulous. So there's that.
And what do you feel like is the biggest lesson you've learned from, creating these events and working with your clients that really makes them, meaningful or creates maybe long-lasting connections with the clients that you work with?
Sure. I think, and maybe I'm dumb for doing this, but a lot of times people are not great with emails. And so I tend to give my phone number out a lot. And so I get a lot of like text messages and phone calls with questions, and we kind of build a rapport. And then over time, we become friends. So I actually just the other day had an event for this gentleman's 60th birthday, and it was a surprise party. And his wife, her and I just hit it off really well. She's super sweet. She lives in Leesburg, and she called me up and she said, I have to admit, I did a little bit of stalking on you and you are so much fun. She's like, I really want to join your lazy book club. So now she's in my lazy book club and we're friends. Another person in my lazy book club, I actually met, she was one of my first parties at Sidebar when the docket was called the Carriage House. And we also, same thing, we just hit it off really well and we stayed in touch on Facebook and now we hang out. So I think that's the difference is I try to be really friendly and inviting and open to the question. And it hasn't bit me in the butt yet. So that's
Absolutely.
good, but it could, I guess.
Well, no, it's definitely good that you've created. I mean, that was kind of my next question because you have all these events in the Leesburg community. What makes that local community so special to you? Is it obviously building those relationships or something else that really makes your job rewarding?
It's definitely like seeing people excited, them being grateful for the work that we do. I mean, the whole joy of working at somewhere like Sidebar, especially, is that they're so used to like, okay, I have to rent this hall, and then I have to decorate it, and then do I need to bring in the dessert plates, and do I need to do all this stuff? The nice thing about where we are is like it's really well decorated, thanks to Colleen West over at Wild West. And it's just cute as a button. You don't need to bring anything in, everything's handled. Like you just get to show up and have a great party and enjoy yourself and like put your worries behind. And there's no details you need to worry about. Like it's all taken care of, unless you want to. If you want to
Yeah.
bring in, your photos or your whatever. Some people bring in games. We've had baby showers and they bring in baby shower games. And, birthdays, obviously, people bring in cake and candles and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we do allow for all of that, but you don't have to. You could just
Yeah.
show
And
up and have a great party.
yeah, that's me. I'm the type of I just want it done for me. I don't want to have to, no responsibility on my end. I'm glad you mentioned Colleen. Little shout out to Colleen and Wild West because they do a phenomenal
Right?
job. So I'd rather just have Colleen come in and just like do whatever looks good and I can just
And
show
make
up
it
and
look
have fun.
fabulous.
Because that's what you want for the client. You
Exactly.
want them to just be able to show up, them to enjoy themselves. But on your end, Stephanie, what are some key factors when you're setting up an event, when you're putting on an event that makes it run smoothly from start to finish?
So that was part of my process when I came in because like they had the event contract, but it was really just like a ton of verbiage and then you signed on the bottom. And I wanted them to tell me, like, this is the date I want it. This is who it's for. This is your contact person. This is the space I want. This is the time I want. Like, I wanted all of those little details that are obviously hugely important to making your event run smoothly to be on the event contract. And then that way, they know what they're expecting. I know what they're expecting. The other thing I have was we got Invoice Simple, and Invoice Simple has been a life changer. You are able to put in all of your items, and it kind of keeps track of everything for you. It adds everything up for you. And then that way the customer sees exactly what food they've ordered. These are the drinks. This is the bar I've set up. It's got all the details on it and pricing, and they receive that as well. So I feel just having that open communication and having everything laid out for you as you go along leaves it to where nothing can really get messed up. Hopefully, right? There's a rare
That's right.
day that it happens.
And how do you direct your clients? Because I know you have multiple different venues that you can do events at, but like, say somebody's coming in for a wedding, or say they're doing a birthday, or say they're doing a graduation party, or something like that. I know you mentioned Sidebar a couple different times, but like, I know you have other events in the area. Are your different venues tailored to different types of events? If it's like a birthday versus a wedding?
I think it really just depends on the overall look that you want or the type of food that you want. We also have Schmidt's Barbecue, which is Sidebar's little sister next door. And that mainly is like all outdoor. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more like easygoing, outside, because it's mostly all outside, the inside really is not habitable for an event, I would say. So it's more outdoor. So it's like if you're looking for like the picnic or the company picnic kind of thing, or you're just looking for people to gather and have a good time and you don't want it to be stuffy, that is a great location. At halftime, which is at Raven Tech Park, the cool thing about that is they just remodeled. And so you do have the indoor level that is covered, and you can have an event there with up to probably, I would say probably like 100 people. It also has seating for, I would say, about 65. And then you also have the upstairs option. And so with the upstairs option, you have one of, I would say, Leesburg's only massive rooftop bar that nobody knows about.
Huh.
And so we have the bar up there that runs. It's like the perfect. I wish it was there when my kids played soccer all the time, because I practically lived there and there was zero bar, and that would have been amazing.
The soccer,
So,
the soccer
you just
game.
sit upstairs and you have a view. Right. You have a perfect view over the field and you have beautiful sunsets over there. It's picturesque. But then you have the bar and you can order food. And the nice thing about our restaurants is if you've been to Sidebar or Schmidt's Barbecue or even Baked Bagels, you can get all of those things brought in to that event. So that's really kind of a nice space. Plus, you have the field space. And so if you wanted to do a corporate party, you could do that and then rent the upstairs and keep going. We have all kinds of really cool things that we could do over there. It's just not as well known.
So that interests me. So the halftime venue, you can use the field in addition to the rooftop or the indoor seating as well.
Yep, you can rent all of those spaces.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So they've done quite a few like school, what do they call them? Field day events for private schools. They've done a ton of like corporate get-togethers. They kind of do like the Olympics where they have some competing companies. So you could take whatever field that you're in, and we've had a few different ones where they'll come together and kind of compete their companies against each other in an Olympics event for the whole day. And then as the sun goes down, they go upstairs and go to the bar and then announce who won. And, it's a lot of fun. It's limitless. You could do whatever you want over there.
Yeah, I'm already the wheels are already spinning in my head of a integrative chiropractic, soccer game. Or I'm always telling my staff, I'm like, guys, we had a volleyball team a few years ago that we had a couple staff, join our volleyball league. And I'm like, man, we should have like a yearly, flag football game or soccer game or something. That would be a perfect event for that.
Yeah. You could do volleyball as well because I think over past field 4, they have sand volleyball. So you could still do volleyball if you want.
There you go. Tell tell me how it's been working with Niels, because I know you met him very early on, and now he's got what, 4 or 5 restaurants. So kind of touch on that relationship and how you have seen the growth in the restaurants as well as um, in himself as well.
Yeah, he is honestly one of my favorite people. Like, just the most easygoing. Nothing seems to upset him or irk him. And I think my favorite part is it's a rare day he says no to me. So if I ask, like, hey, can we get this? He'll say yes. Hey, can we do this? Yes. So I think that's probably why he's one of my favorite people. But he's got a great sense of humor. He is super quick to respond, which is lovely in a man, especially just to have somebody who, like, if you send a text message and you need an answer, that they will answer. So it's really fabulous. He's very easy to work for. And I think that shows across in his restaurants too, because most of the people that are like the top tier of running his places have been with him for ages, and that says a lot because a restaurant, as most people know, there is a ton of turnover, which we do have a bit of that, but it's because kids go off to college and then they come back for the summer. So it's been really nice. It's like just our little family. It's a nice little group.
Absolutely. What is maybe one of your most memorable moments of, whether it was working for Neil's at one of the restaurants or possibly at a marketing event, or, what is a memorable moment that you were like just felt very you're like, I'm definitely in the right place, or there's an event that really just hit it off really well. Can you tell me a specific instance of
Oh
anything in
gosh,
the past few years?
there's been so many of them. It's just so fun to watch people come and celebrate and have a good time and say how easy it was, how flawless it was, how delicious everything was, how kind everybody is. It's just one of those things where as a group, nobody says that's not my job or doesn't see a problem and immediately try and fix it. And it's a really nice environment to be a part of. And I think when people come to events there, they see that we all just work together. We're happy to be there. There's no like talking behind somebody's back in the middle. I don't know if you've ever been to things like that where you just like hear them griping about somebody at work and you're just like, I want to listen to that. But yeah, it's just a really nice, friendly environment. It's such a good time. I'm kind of like an introvert extrovert. I've discovered about myself. So as much as I am extroverted at work, I love that. I love getting my people time and I have like conversations and I fill up my cup with that. But then I also think this job is great for me because a lot of it is paperwork. A lot of it is like making sure everything's in the calendar and organizing everything and making text messaging and making sure everybody's got all of their roles to fill. And so that gives me my quiet alone time. So it's perfect. I had no idea I was that person, but I am.
Nice. That's good to learn that about yourself. And the one thing I remember, so I worked in a lot of restaurants in all the way from high school to um, definitely in undergrad and then even grad. I mean, I put myself through undergraduate and graduate school bartending and waiting tables. And one thing I'm glad you brought up griping about, coworkers griping. One thing I always tell my staff is like, we do not gossip here. And it's because one of the chefs at one of my, I would think it was in McLean at, what's the, Jay Gilbert's. Have you ever been to Jay Gilbert's in McLean? It's like a steakhouse.
I haven't.
So the chef
No.
there one day, he was the nicest. His name was Chef Don. He had been there forever. He was the nicest guy. Same like you're talking about Nils. Like everybody loved him. And I remember one day I was, being bratty or like I was probably being a hungover server like I always was, and I was complaining about something and he was like, stop. I was like, what? He's like, all that gossip, what did that accomplish? And he's like, nothing. And ever since then, that has stuck in my mind. And so I always tell new staff when I'm training them or if I hire anyone new, I'm like, we don't do gossip here. Gossip solves nothing. It contributes nothing to, if there's a problem or there's some sort of situation that needs to be handled, gossip does nothing to solve it. And that's
Yeah.
what I have noticed because I've been in several of Nils restaurants. I've been to Sidebar. I've been to Schmidt. I've been to all of them. You can tell in a restaurant, maybe it's because I've worked at so many that everybody enjoys working there. So you guys have done a great job at just keeping the atmosphere and the chemistry in the restaurant positive and, being a customer myself, people can definitely tell.
That's good. We've accomplished it.
There we go.
I'm not even there half the time. I'm really just there for events. But, I work with all of them and when I come in, all the kids that greet you, all the servers, all of them, they're all so sweet and kind and they enjoy being there even on a long day. And it's not easy doing what they do. Actually, I'm opposite of you. I've never once worked in a restaurant. I don't feel like I have the memory for it.
No,
So it's
everyone.
like trying to think of all the things that somebody just ordered, I'd be terrified I'd mess up. So, that goes back to that whole perfectionist issue, right? Not going to be great at that. I think I'll skip.
It's the one thing we all have to do because we all go out to eat, we all go out for drinks. Everyone at some point in their life has to wait tables or be a hostess or be a bartender because it gives you a different perspective and it teaches you to be just understanding. I think too, I tell people this all the time. Like, people are like, oh, I wasted, 3 years at this job doing whatever, and I didn't benefit from it. It was just a waste of time. And I don't like to think of like that. Like, I waited tables and bartended for decades, maybe, I think a long time. But I am such a stickler about customer service now, and it's all because of my days waiting tables in restaurants. And I'm such
Yeah.
a stickler about attention to detail and anticipating people's needs. Every single interview, we're interviewing two people right now. Every single interview, I ask like questions in a way to see if they're going to anticipate people's needs, because that is huge. When somebody comes into your business, I don't care if you're a restaurant owner or a small business owner or an events coordinator, if you can and read people's mind and anticipate their needs, it's all those little things that really mean a huge thing, that really, I think, customer service wise make the difference. So I feel like I've learned so much from waiting on other people, serving them dinner, serving them drinks. There's no way I would be here today if I hadn't waited tables and bartended. So I think, first of all, Stephanie, we need to get you, I need to talk to Niels and get you into a waiting tables position so that you can experience it for yourself.
Don't you dare.
Well,
Don't you dare.
it sounds like you're staying pretty busy with the events coordinating. How do you balance it now with all the different venues and all the different events you guys have, and then obviously everyone's got their personal life. How do you balance everything to make sure that you're not, getting overextended in one fashion or another?
I mean, also it comes back to having a great team, right? So I have had some health issues going on this year. I got diagnosed with bladder cancer actually it's been a full year now. So that kind of was a scary portion where I'm like, I have to start treatments. I don't know how I'm going to handle it. I don't know what I can and can't do. I don't know what I'm going to feel like. And so they allowed me to bring in one of our servers and train him in events. And so that way I could do all the at home stuff, which I don't have to exert myself for. And then he was able to just take over all of the in person stuff. And, that's been fabulous. So just having somebody that you can come to and say, hey, this is what I need, or this is what I'm going to need, or I anticipate I'm going to need this. I don't know.
Yeah.
And have somebody just react and take care of it. That's been really great. So, you have that. And then this job, again, it kind of ebbs and flows, and you have like certain times when it's super busy. Oddly enough, January is really busy, but it's busy at home. It's like busy fielding all of these inquiries of people that have gotten engaged over the holidays. And so that's a fun time of year, but it's like a lot of at home stuff. It's not in-person events. So that's nice because I can, start a load of laundry and then, answer some emails and then, take the dogs out for a walk, answer some emails. So it just ebbs and flows just like anything else.
And I'm glad you brought up teams, because team members are huge and you're only as good as your team. What are some things that you see, whether it's, Sidebar, Schmitz, or Baked, or any of the venues? What are some things that make, or what are some qualities that make up of a good team member? If you're going to hire somebody, what are some things that you appreciate about the members that are on your team?
I think I mentioned it earlier. Nobody ever says that's not my job, right? So if I'm like, hey, I really need for us to get X, Y, and Z done, they'll just say, okay, hey, the bathroom wasn't scrubbed before these people are about to show up. Will you go clean the bathroom? Sure. Like whatever it is that you need. Will you go take these dishes down in the kitchen? Will you go do whatever? Can you take this bus bin over to the dishwasher? Like nobody ever says no. Again, that's probably why I love my job. Nobody ever says no. They just do it. But I think all together as a team, we all are kind of like that. Like if you need help somewhere, they say sure. If I can't come in and give a tour, I can ask the managers, like, hey, are you guys cool if I have these people come in? And they'll gladly do it. So it's just great having all of that.
And what do you enjoy most about the process of, bringing clients in, showing them the different venues, and being able to, kind of exceed their expectations? What's your favorite part about your job?
Early on, this was not the same answer as it is today. Early on, it was like night shift wasn't even night shift, right? We had no idea what we were going to turn it into. So it was just like a big empty space. And so with that, I was like, you could do photo shoots in here. You could do like trying to figure out like what kind of people I could bring in to show off the space and they can use it. But now it's so well decorated. Again, Colleen, it's so well decorated that it's really fun to take somebody who's never been in our restaurant and show them like the different spaces and have them kind of imagine what you could do. Like the courtyard, I think I showed you the other day. The courtyard is just so magical. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's such an adorable small wedding venue. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
That who wouldn't want to get married right here? It's so pretty. It's just like this beautiful little European cafe tucked away hideaway. And I love it so much. And then, you know, having that space, you can come around and go to the docket, or you could go upstairs and have kind of a more swanky event up in night shift. And so it's kind of fun being able to show all the versatility of the space and what you could do with it. And not everybody sees it unless they're pointed out.
And then looking back on, the different events you've done, the different jobs you've had, what advice would you give to somebody who's looking into get, say they're looking, whether it's social media managing or maybe they're looking into getting into event coordinating? What advice would you have for somebody looking to get into this industry?
As far as social media management, I think it really depends on the company. When I was a manager, I would say being a social media manager for a restaurant or a bar was really hard when you were not in that space every day. It's really hard to kind of get that across of what it looks like, who the people are, what's going on. So you need to kind of figure out, do you want to be in that space every day? Is it something you're going to want to have to be reaching out for all the time? Or do you want to work for a company that is pretty easy and you can just figure it out on your own without having to be there and seeing it? And then for event coordinating, I still feel like I have an easy gig. I came across Angelica Laws, and she is a wedding coordinator and she's fabulous. And I see the stuff that she does, and it's just incredible. And I can't even imagine, like, talk about having to be organized and coordinate everything to a T. So even if you go into event coordinating, I feel like working for a restaurant is probably the easiest, like, basic step to take. And then if that's not challenging enough for you, then you go and work for somebody like Angelica, who can do it all. She's amazing.
And you might not be able to answer this question, but I always ask, like, why is it? So you mentioned earlier about like social media ads. Why is it so hard to find a good social media marketing company? Do you agree with that? Like, do you think it is hard or do you think it's like I have finally found one, but it took me like 4 years. I went through at least like three or four of them. Do you have any input on that or any advice for me of why is it's hard to find a good social media marketing company?
I would say it's tricky just because you have your wants and needs and what you're trying to put across in here.
Mm,
And sometimes that's a lot harder to get across to someone else. Like you really need to take the time to kind of curate what it is that you want to do and take the time to kind of express that to them. And then if you've done that part and they're still not getting it right, that's on them, not so much on you. But sometimes you kind of have to look back and see, is this a me issue? Am I not like getting across what I need or want? Or are they not accepting what I'm giving and trying to make it better? So I think it's tricky. It's like finding a good hairdresser, right? Like it takes a little bit of trial and error to find the person that is a good fit for you and just knows what to do and how to do it. You know, you just have that instant connection with. So it's a little tricky, like anything.
yeah. It's just interesting because I run into so many small business owners or entrepreneurs and they kind of tell me the same thing. Like, "Oh, do you have a good social media company that you use?" And we all kind of say the same thing. Oh, we tried this guy for a while. It was horrible. Then we tried this person. It wasn't good, but I finally found a good one, so I'm going to stick with them. But what's coming up in the future? What do you What do you have planned for 2025, Stephanie? Anything on the horizon?
I mean, currently, right now, as we speak, I think most of our team is over at Sidebar and Schmidt's, and they are decorating the holiday tents.
Nice.
So right now, it's just a lot of trying to get like corporate holiday parties or private holiday parties, different things like that that we can book in for December. New Year's, we have the tent at Sidebar through January 6th. So, we have all kinds of different little party venues that we could do if people are still looking, which is, I think, part of the issue is, again, how do you get the word out that you do corporate parties? How do you get the word out that you do this and that without paying a ton of money
Mhm.
in ads that may or may not work? So it's really just a word of mouth. And luckily, since I've started, I think I've been there for 5 years now this month. So we've grown probably, I think we've increased sales 35% every year, which is fabulous. But we could do more.
Is that
We could do
so?
more.
So you've grown 35% just in event revenue or revenue overall in all the rest?
That's the only thing I keep track of, Keith. I can't do all those numbers.
So
That's for Neil to do.
that's pretty impressive. Why do you think you've been able to grow 35% just in the event space? Like, what do you think contributes to that?
I think that a lot of it came from us properly decorating the space to where you don't have to come in and do anything. That helps a lot. The fact that people finally come in and they try our food, or they finally come in and they work with our bartenders and try our drinks. And they see the customization to that, coming in and streamlining everything to where it's all organized and things don't fall through the cracks. And I will toot my own horn and say I'm really good normally about responding to emails. So if somebody sends an email, I will respond very quickly. And I've heard from a lot of people, dog, sorry.
That's
I've
okay.
heard from a lot of people, especially wedding people are looking for places to have events and stuff, will say that it's like pulling teeth to get responses from some of these venues and some of these places. And that's just crazy to me. Like, it's
Yeah.
an email,
Yeah.
respond, you know? So, I feel like it's really easy and they make it hard
Yeah.
for no reason.
Do you think they're just overwhelmed with leads that are coming in that they just can't handle all the influx of people that are looking for spaces?
No, I
No.
don't. I think that they haven't taken the time to hire someone like me that like that's their sole job is to respond to people and get events taken care of. A lot of it is there's one restaurant in particular that I'm thinking of, and again, we're not going to gossip and say bad things about other people, but just in knowing some of their staff and hearing them gripe about them, it's because the owners won't take the time to hire somebody and train them and put somebody in that role. So, or if they do, they just try and find the absolute cheapest person, not somebody that's going to be good at it, and just fill the role. Just fill the role, right? And that's detrimental because this place I'm thinking of in my head, like it is a fabulous venue. It could be so incredible and they could be making so much money. And it kills me to like see it just like not respond and just waste all of that money. It just is crazy to me. So I think that is sometimes like just an owner realizing what they need to do to get that rolling and make it work and function.
Well, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves as a customer. When I go into a business and I want to spend money and it's difficult for me to do that. Like, that's why I love working with you guys. Like, thanks to you and Nils for being so generous for sponsoring our mileage challenge every year. But, like, you know, every time I reach out to you, like, hey, I want to, do our anniversary party or I want to do this, it's very easy to do that. But I totally agree. When I go into a business or when I'm trying to purchase something or spend money with a company, and yeah, I don't either get good customer service or you don't get a response. It's like, I want to spend money with you, but you're making it so difficult.
You're making
So
it so hard.
I just want to get,
Yeah, help me help you. Let me pay
I,
you.
I just want to give you my money. Please take it so that I can do the thing I
Yeah,
want to do. But yeah, I
want to
think
do the
that
thing. Come on.
I was I
Yeah, and I
kind of I
feel bad
touched.
for those people because, you know, you're planning something with weddings, especially at a year in advance, right? And they're just like, as time goes on, depending on what it is, like if it's your main wedding venue, as time goes on, that window gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so you start to freak out. And if somebody's not responding to you, you just like call it a day and move along. Like you're not going to keep begging. You're like, okay, they must be busy or they don't have room or whatever. So, you know, it kind of goes along the same role. Like, just be responsive. Just make this easy. That's all you need to do. Just make it easy.
Well, I've touched on this on a couple other podcasts as well, and I don't know if you've noticed it, but like since COVID, I have been so diligent with my staff on customer service because I'm like, you guys, this is how we separate ourselves from all the other chiropractors or all the other restaurants or whatever business. Like customer service is number one in my book now because I feel after COVID, it just went down in the dumps. And some of that may be because there wasn't, enough people to work. And so a lot of companies and businesses were short staffed. Is that something you have noticed? Like you guys were able to handle it. I feel like Neil's grew during the pandemic. How are you guys
He
able to?
he's very good at like shifting, right? So, for example, Schmidt's Barbecue was not Schmidt's Barbecue when the pandemic hit. It was 14 Loudon. And 14 Loudon also was the most awesome bar because we also did Fa La La. So you would have like, you know, your Christmas bar pop up right now. In the summer, it was usually some kind of summer camp theme. It was such a fun bar and it was so great and such a great hang. But COVID hits and you're like, well, nobody's hanging out at the bar, so we gotta pivot. And I feel like Niels and Sam is one of his partners in those restaurants. Him and Sam are really great at okay, this is what we're gonna do now. And so he was able to like during I think it was like Easter, different holidays, things like that. They did like big family meals, and they pivoted that way. They switched from the bar to okay, we'll do barbecue. You can cook that outside most of the time. People can just pick it up. It's all outdoor. And so that was our pivot for that. So I feel like he always just keeps trying like new things, which is why he's an entrepreneur and has so many businesses.
Right, right.
It just has that mindset of constantly moving, changing, trying something new. It's great. It's amazing to watch. It's exhausting to watch, but I am constantly in awe. You
Now
know,
I
which is a great thing to work for somebody that you're always like, how do you do it all? How do you do this? You're exhausting me just watching you. Like, oh my gosh, they do a lot.
now I know how my staff feels because they say the same thing. They're like, I'm like, hey, do you guys like working here? And they're like, well, Dr. Keith, it's always something new with you. And, one week we're doing a podcast and now you're doing a YouTube channel. And then the next month you're gonna, like just on our Monday meeting, I'm like, oh guys, Thanksgiving's next week. We need to do a food drive. Hello. Like, come on, loud and hunger.
Hello,
Like, we need to get up. Like, come on, guys. And they're like, here we go again. So
here we
now
go.
now I see what they I can from you I can see how they feel now. So I'll try to be a little bit more stable. But yeah, I'm glad.
No, don't be stable. Like I love that about him. I love that he is always trying new things. Like it keeps you on your toes and it makes you sometimes feel like, "Oh man, am I being stagnant? Do I need to try something else?" Do I, you know, this year was my year of yes. I decided even if it's not my thing, I'm going to say yes to it. And it's taken me to some really odd concerts that I definitely wouldn't have gone to on my own had I not like had to say yes to thing. So it's been fun and it's opened some new doors and started some new things. And so I think it's good that you're like that. Like you're always constantly trying and you're trying something not only for the community, like I feel like a lot of the things that you do are community driven. It's not about you trying to fill up something in yourself. It's you trying to give back and do good. So keep at it. I say rock on, Keith. I like it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Stephanie, if our viewers wanted to get in touch with you, if they want to, say you said, the tents are coming up for holiday parties. So if they've got a business, they want to do a corporate, holiday party, how would they get in touch with you to get scheduled for one of your venues, whether it's, Sidebar or the Halftime or Schmidt's Barbecue? How do they get in touch with you?
Sure. I would say the email that I respond to the most and the quickest is events@sidebarlbg.com because that one always has new emails. So I tend to look at it on the daily. So that would probably be the best spot to do that. Or you can just call Sidebar and ask them or stop by and grab a card. My event stuff is on there.
Well, I highly recommend it. Anyone who's listening, I've had multiple events with Sidebar, and they always do an amazing job. Stephanie is 100% accurate. The drinks are amazing, the food is delicious, and it's always just a fun, laid back time. So, thanks for hosting us. And yeah, if you're in the market for a good holiday party, give Stephanie a shout. And thanks so much for being on, Stephanie. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I didn't think I'd be able to sit here and talk about myself for this long. So this is awesome.
Sometimes you just, you've got a lot to talk about. So I'm glad you're on. And yeah, maybe we'll do it again. Maybe next year we'll have to have another one. We'll sit down again and talk about what's new at Sidebar and Schmitz and all the maybe Nils will have 3 or 4 more restaurants at that point. Who knows?
Oh my gosh, I know. Well, a lot of people keep saying for more better. They're like, why don't you have events at more better? And I think it would be a great event venue. Just there's, it's further out and the parking becomes a situation because you're sharing parking with multiple businesses. And so not all the spaces that he comes up with are great event venues, but that's okay. I don't know if I could handle that much more.
Well, I like the halftime. The halftime place, I think too. You're absolutely right. No one just knows about it, but like if you can have a soccer game going on or some sort of fun event for your staff and also have a place for everyone just to lounge and have drinks and food, I think that is definitely something that people would enjoy.
It would be really cool. I always am like, oh, this would be such a fun wedding venue because, for your welcome party or your rehearsal dinner welcome party, which seems to be a thing now. How fun would that be to just have everybody come get together and play flag football or soccer or something even more simple and goofy and less strenuous? And then everyone else like watches up at the bar if they're not playing. Like it would be so much fun. And then even just doing community or like creative events where you're giving back in some way and you can have a big event that way. I don't know. There's like endless possibilities, and I don't have the time to overthink it right now. So I'm putting it back there.
All right, we'll put it on the back burner for now. But yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch with Stephanie, email her at what events at sidebarlbg
Event
dot.
sidebarg.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on, Steph. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.